Assalamu alaikum students. Assalamu alaikum students. The topic which we are going to discuss today is bilingualism and multilingualism, and secondly we will talk about diglossia. As we know that the word bi means two and multi means many. So bilingualism will be the use of two languages or the knowledge of two languages or a person with two languages, and similarly multilingualism will be the knowledge of many languages. So we use the terms bilingual for a person who knows two languages, and we use the term multilingual for a person who knows more than two languages or many languages. We come towards the definition of bilingualism or multilingualism. Bilingualism or multilingualism is the phenomenon of speaking and understanding two or more languages. Bilingualism is the phenomenon of speaking and understanding two or more languages. The term can refer to individuals as well as to an entire society. So bilingual term applies to a person who will be bilingual, and a society can be bilingual, or a country can also be bilingual. So there are different levels for bilingualism and multilingualism. So here in the bottom are given levels and here we can see that bilingualism at the level of the individual, bilingualism at the level of province, country, or bilingualism is sometimes officially announced by the states or countries as well, which means that the countries announce or the country announces that we are a bilingual nation, or we are a monolingual nation, or we are a multilingual nation. Here we have some examples of bilingual countries like Canada and Belgium have declared that they are bilingual countries, which means that their people use two languages. Secondly, we have the example of a multilingual country, which is Switzerland, who have announced that they are a multilingual nation, which means that their people can speak more than two languages. Here I would add that these decisions of announcing the countries as monolingual, as bilingual, or as multilingual are most of the time political, because it's not possible in this era that only one or two languages are being spoken in any of the countries. So there are of course multilingual people in all countries of the world, but it is a political decision that the government announces their nation or their country to be monolingual or to be bilingual. Yes, examples of bilingualism. Other countries, though not officially bilingual, have two or more different languages spoken within their borders. Most countries of the world fall into this later category. So this is the same category we were talking about, that the countries are, although having more than two languages being spoken in their country, but they announce them to be mono or bilingual countries. In most countries, whether they are officially bilingual or multilingual or not, there are whole communities that are bilingual or multilingual, in the sense that their members commonly use two or more languages in their daily lives. So, in most of the countries of the world, we find people, although the countries announce themselves to be officially bilingual or monolingual, but the communities there, the people living there, can speak more than two languages. Uh, Chances of no, sorry, I will talk about that later. Now, first I talk about the process involved in compound bilingualism. Psychologists believe that if both of the languages are acquired at the same time in childhood, they they are stored in the same system, or they follow the same system in the brain, or there is the same process for processing of those two languages. So if we talk about the coordinate bilingualism, in coordinate bilingualism, one language, a system is developed for one language in the brain, but for the second language another system is developed, and that is not as efficient as the first one was. So as the system developed for the L1 is considered to be more proficient, the language which is learnt later can never be so proficient. So a person always thinks in the or makes sentences or develops ideas in the language which has a strong system first, and then the person translates those ideas into the language uh, which was learnt later. So the first language will be the independent one, will be the dominant one, while the language which was learnt later would be the subordinate one, for which we will need translation all the time. Now there are informal and formal domains. One language might be the language of the home, in the sense that it would always be used in talking informally with other members of the family at home and about domestic matters. It is called informal domain. Another language might be used outside the home or inside the home when strangers are present, or when the topic of conversation is other than domestic. This notion of the domain is intuitively attractive. This type of domain is also called formal domain. So bilinguals or multilinguals use different languages in different domains. At home they use one language, outside home another. In school or college or university there must be another or any one of those two languages. So the last point is functional differentiation of languages. Languages are chosen depending on domain, participants and topic. So the people who are bilinguals or they are multilingual are able to switch from one language to another language depending on the domain or the place where they are, who are the participants or the interlocutors of that conversation, and the topic they are talking about. This is called functional differentiation, that depending on the function the person is performing, he or she can choose from the languages if he or she is a bilingual or multilingual. So a domain can be is a place like home or class or office or shop or anything. Participants are the person of the persons who are involved in that conversation, and topic can be any one. So all these three factors are interrelated in the selection of those languages. This selection from one language to another is also called code switching, and only the people who share the languages, who have common languages, can switch between these languages depending on where they are, who are the participants of the conversation, and what topic are they discussing. So now we move to diglossia, which is another geographical or social or political phenomenon related to language. So di again means two, and glossia means varieties of languages or languages. So it is again the use of two languages or the use of two varieties of languages. Now we start with the definition. The use of two varieties of the same language in different social contexts through a speech community. So when the people of a community, a speech community, use two varieties of the same language in different social contexts for different purposes, is called diglossia. This phenomenon is called diglossia. So if in a speech community one language is two dialects of one languages are spoken, or two varieties of one language are spoken, and the people use both of those varieties but in different situations, this phenomenon will be called diglossia. So there is a difference between bilingualism and diglossia. Bilingualism makes use of languages, while diglossia makes use of varieties of a language. So now we come to the second point. A key defining characteristics of diglossia is that the two varieties are kept quite apart functionally. One is used in set of circumstances and the other in an entirely different set of circumstances. So this is already defined. This is not dependent on the will of the people that where they use that language, but it is clearly defined by the norms of that speech community, that in which circumstances and situations they have to use one language, and in which circumstances they have to use the other, not language but the language variety. So the entire set of circumstances for both of the language varieties is defined clearly. A rather special situation, I am reading the third point now. A rather special situation involving two distinct varieties of a language called diglossia exists in some countries. In diglossia, there is a low variety which is acquired locally and used for everyday affairs, and a high variety which is a special variety learned in school and used for important matters. So low variety is called the low variety because it has, or it is considered less prestigious in society, and it is used for the informal type of functions in the society, while the high or the special variety is called high variety because it is highly esteemed, or it is more privileged or highly prestigious variety of the same language, and it is used for formal purposes or the formal functions or the formal situations in the same society. So high variety dominates certain domains, formal use like literacy, religion, public speaking, high usage, and the low variety dominates in lower domains, informal use like daily conversations including jokes, intimacy, street use, and use in. Yes, students, here are the references, and I will again tell you that all the book text and notes will be provided to you, and if you still have any queries, or if something is not understandable to you, we can discuss that during Google classes. Allah Hafiz.